Welcome, guys, to the AWS show. This is episode 4, and we were just discussing what is happening in society today because just yesterday another Terrence get hit, and I don't know how extravagant that news is, but
Get hit?
he get hit.
You get robbed.
No, he got robbed.
You get robbed.
Yeah, he got robbed.
Imagine that.
It's a shame, boy.
And imagine he got robbed in his own constituency. Oh, shucks. We decided yesterday that we was going to hit the table, and I now hit the microphone.
Now, but like, imagine that will society come to you, Robin, Minister of Health, Minister. Like, come on.
Crazy.
That's so crazy.
That just show you how all respect is lost. Like,
That
you
is
have
so
no
true.
form of respect.
And that is why you all need to go and listen to our discussion on mental health and all them good stuff. Because we have that penalty video. All them stuff is going to be so good. We need to see some more engagements. We're
Right.
trying to interact with you all as much as possible, and it's like you all acting like the wife and not the owner woman. Just give us the opportunity to engage with you all.
What?
What do you mean?
I don't condone that.
No.
You don't condone
Anyhow, so many of you all could see that we have an empty chair here, so that means we have a special guest with us today. And today we're going to be talking about youths in active
Youth on the ground.
youth on the ground. Youth on the ground. Thank you, my very learned friend. Okay, so this is the man of the hour who we wanted to introduce on our show. This is our special guest. Many of you may know him as the Law Society president. He is also involved in various youth activities and various youth groups. Welcome, Joshua Williams.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Joshua, the thing is with you is that a lot of people is getting your name wrong. So please, for the camera and for our sake, please pronounce your name properly.
So let's just give it to him here. Joshua Williams.
Good.
Jehoshua
So you didn't say the
Williams.
So I didn't say I say it wrong and all kind of thing. So as we was talking earlier, we are going to be talking about youth on the ground, and I want to start off this conversation / discussion about talking why are you all so passionate about youth development or youth or helping young people in society?
Let our guest go.
Yeah, you go first.
Thanks for the honors. Okay, so most definitely I grew up in a type of neighborhood where crime was rampant, it was impoverished. We didn't really have much. So for me to grow up in that type of environment, to this date, continue seeing that. It's just like, wow, I need to have some form of impact. Like I got various opportunities, I learned certain things. So why don't I also inspire youths who could actually, get some inspiration, get something to get them going? Because the difference between somebody going down a life of crime and a life of success is simply be somebody just giving them a pat on the back and introducing them to something.
Yeah. And Amaris, I know that you are involved in a lot of youth-centered activities. So why are you so passionate about helping youth in Trinidad and Tobago?
I am passionate about helping youth in Trinidad and Tobago, working with them. So I wouldn't call it like helping. It's a form of helping as well, but I like working with and communicating with young persons because I believe young persons always have something to say. And the thing is, in our society, especially in the Caribbean society, we always hear, well, them ain't doing nothing beneficial, them ain't know what they're about, and so forth. So I love talking with young persons, working with young persons, and in a way, letting their voices be heard when there is no one else there to speak up for them.
That's fair. And Wesley, what about you? You and any youth thing?
No. Well,
Ain't shame.
you asked the question really about if passionate about youth development. I wouldn't say passionate, but what I want to see change is the stigma in society that the more older people would have that view that they see the young people today and they say, look at the music they're listening to. Look, they're only going into a life of crime. They can do something better with their life, but they don't see that there are many youths in society. I mean, we have one right here that, us as well, that are doing good in society, that are striving to make change in society, and that is what I want to see different society, to change the mentality of the people.
That's fair. I mean, in terms of me, being passionate about youth development and helping young people. I have always wanted to help persons in need. Always wanted to help young people because I just feel a sense of happiness and empowerment knowing that I was able to not just give back to somebody who could possibly change their life for the better. That to me does just bring joy and happiness to my, to my entire self and to my psyche. So,
Correct.
what kind of started youth development for you? Well, being your passion for youth development for you.
So I definitely have to attribute it to the peer resolution program. So there are some other members in our faculty who actually attended that at that point in time. And through that, I got engaged with Childline, who I'm heavily involved with now. Through Childline, the US Youth Ambassadors program. Through that, I went on to do other things. So, for instance, the MOBAC Foundation. So it was essentially a chain reaction that led to these things. And as one led to another, the passion grew, the exposure, and getting to actually see firsthand what a youth will be going through on a daily basis, aside from my own perspective, is something that I don't think the average person can endure and not feel some inherent sense of responsibility to actually want to give back to the community.
Okay, cool. And what about you?
For me, I think, well, I believe it would have started in primary school when there was a certain form, I wouldn't say it was like full blown bullying, but there was a certain form of like disagreement amongst peers, amongst persons in my class, and I always, that is one thing that I remember from primary school, basically there was a breakdown in communication. Looking back at it now, there was a breakdown in communication. I mean, at that age, primary school, we were still young, we don't know how to effectively communicate and so forth. And even as adults, we still struggle with that. But looking back at it now, I would say there was a breakdown of communication, and I believe like if young persons work together, we could actually make a difference in our society. And well, stemming from that, well, I would have gone to high school and so forth, and then I would have participated in the 19th National Youth Parliament. And having participated in that, learning how to effectively debate and communicate with persons, even doing other development programs as well, youth development programs, I have learned that it's more effective to listen and then speak instead of always trying to, speak the loudest in the room. You don't have to speak the loudest in the room for persons to understand what is being said. So that would have been one thing. And then I would have participated in the 11th Commonwealth Youth Parliament, where I had the opportunity to communicate with young persons around my age and a bit older, from different Commonwealth countries, and that really exposed me, like wow, if we don't communicate, I'm going back to communication, if we don't communicate effectively, we could have a lot of problems. But participating in that particular event, it really opened my eyes, like we could get things done together. Like for example, like the Caribbean integration that we so fighting for it since the 1900s. Like these are things that we could do as young persons.
It's so interesting that both of you all would have mentioned like different programs that you're involved in. Because oftentimes in Trinidad, we always say that the government are doing that for youths. They barely have any programs and stuff. So what programs did you all think? Do you all think that we have enough programs geared toward youth development in Trinidad and Tobago?
That's a
I
good
didn't
question.
talk for the question. That's it. But you asked just now.
Well, now you can answer that question. Do you think that they have enough like programs geared toward youth development in Trinidad and Tobago?
Yeah, there are lots.
Hmm.
But I mean, why I wanted to ask you all as well, because I'm listening to how much things they are doing, and I'm like, I do not.
I know, right? You're
I
feeling
do
just
not like,
insecure.
what do I do for youth? I mean, I have lessons, classes, and stuff, so help cultivate the minds and stuff.
That's
I want to
very
start back, so you all can get at me. But
This is not a
like-
promotional.
but like, how do you get into these things? Though? Because I mean, for me, I've been like seen it in a sense from when I was coming up. So like I wanna ask how you all would have actually like for those out there that actually want to get into these things as well, how you all would have actually get into it. We still young, I can still get into it.
Yeah. So I would definitely say you start off small. So the peer resolution program, I started off small and I distinguished myself in it. And through that, I got some more opportunities. Through Childline, I started off as another member in the 100-person training cohort. But I did certain things to distinguish myself. And through that, I'd have gotten offered more opportunities, I'd have taken it seriously, and they would have felt a sense of competence in how I approached it, and they would have seen the passion itself. And through those things, you get more opportunities and you eventually climb the ladders. And well, current position, which I currently hold, is being a director at the Mobile Foundation. And how I got that was through all the other experiences in which I had. So through the exposure itself, persons would notice you, they'd say, hey, we're seeing you doing X and Y, so let me just make it clear now. You don't get to that point by just jumping the ship and stuff, right?
Correct.
You always have to start small, humble yourself, learn the basics. Because even now, I would take up any small position. I would work under anybody. Like it's a learning process. And I think some people get confused as to that and just see it more as a position rather than what the overriding objective is.
Right.
To better the youths themselves.
Because some people just take power to their head.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm not calling on it.
God.
But it's so interesting that you mentioned that question because that was something that we was going to have a discussion
my
last,
bad.
but you jumped the gun.
My
But in terms of me personally, I would have started this entire journey into youth development and helping young people with Transvaal Cadet Force. That's like where I started. So and as you rightfully said, when you go up in the ranks, you see the different challenges, you see the different problems, and you, even when you get to that higher level or higher position, you can now say, well, I need to change this. This could be changed or improved upon so that younger or rather the persons that are coming under you, they'll be able to experience or have better or different experiences.
Yeah.
So, and then from there, I kind of gravitated towards looking at different opportunities, different youth organizations. So there was the Youth Government of Transvaal that I joined. I joined as a member of finance, and I also joined the Transvaal Youth Ambassadors Program, which is where you start off as a national youth ambassador, and you could also get the opportunity to to be on the national executive of the youth ambassadors, and I currently serve on the executive. So seeing,
I'm saying everything you want to
so it's like there are opportunities and there are youth organizations in particular that will help you go through and not gravitate, but navigate through life and different stuff. I don't know how to put it, but yeah.
Well, for me, it would have started in school. Once more in school. I always in school only.
That's good. That's good.
It would have started in school. As Joshua had mentioned, they would have seen the passion in me and they would have heard me having conversations and talking about things like politics and law and doing things, for young people and so forth. So the opportunity was actually presented to me, and from that small opportunity, other opportunities came, right? And sometimes, guys, now this is for the viewers, like, don't be afraid to speak up for something. Don't be afraid to speak about what you are passionate about, because that's where it starts, right? In particular, what you are passionate about as a young person in society. Something positive, that is.
I like how you mention that because that kind of leads into what it is I want to get from you. Do you all think that young people should have a voice in society?
Of course. Most definitely.
Why?
That's a question. Of
I'm
course,
agree.
yeah.
Why? Yeah, old people will say, well, young people don't know about nothing. They now come out of the womb. Why we should have a voice on stuff?
Well, the young people will bring a different perspective into society, because most of the time these older folks, they don't realize that what they would have learned or what they would have experienced 10 years ago than necessary would apply today in some circumstances because
So
society
these old
is
fossils shouldn't
changing.
be dictating us.
No,
I ask it because
I don't think it's a form of dictatorship per se.
Mhm.
I think it comes from a place of tradition, it comes
Right.
from a place of history, and wanting better for us, but not knowing how to effectively communicate with us.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because it's us that have to live the experience, it's us that have to go through the programs that you all created. So if you come to us and ask us first and foremost, then I believe more young persons would know about the opportunities that are available to them.
I think it's heavily dependent too on who exactly the senior or the elder is.
Right.
So let's say, for instance, you have someone who's doing something in a fixed way. What tends to happen is that when you take on a protege, a mentee, whatever the case may be, they indoctrinate them into how they approach it and essentially
Right.
continue the cycle itself.
Yeah.
And we just keep having this process of generations upon generations, doing the same old thing, getting the same result, and then complaining when nothing else new emanates from
No
it.
innovative thinking.
No source of innovation, no groundbreaking
No
thoughts,
creativity.
no out of the box ability. So I think when you give young persons a forum to speak, to express themselves, to ask the questions, the hard hitting questions, it really just
Like
allows
now?
us, like
Yeah.
this is the quintessence of what it is that we should be providing for youth themselves. I know I don't want to derogate away, but I'll give you guys props for even doing these types of initiatives.
Correct, that's right. Yeah.
We should give ourselves a round of applause. And I like,
Yeah, I like what Joshua said, but I'm going a step even further because I don't only want the opportunity to speak. You let me speak, and then what?
Then
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
It's
Okay.
like a then what? Because I could talk, you could sit down there, and you're hearing me, but you're not listening.
And not
Because
allowing me to put it into action.
Right.
Correct is right, because we are stuck in a cycle of tradition.
And I think the thing is the young people are the ones that are supposed to bring the change in society. We are living this life in a sense. You're old, move on. We are that's it, but no, come on. We are the ones who are now experiencing this 21st century, this society. So we know exactly what are going on. We know the feelings that are going on in society. We are experiencing it. They already lived their life.
But some people could say that them could experience it too. Look at technology. They have to also navigate with technology right now.
And who would help them navigate it?
That is
It's
true.
the youths.
That is correct. That's all right.
I strongly believe as well, if there are more, how to put it, internship programs for integral positions in our country, especially within the government, within the justice system, even within religious spaces. If there are more programs to like bring young persons in and actually train them, but in training them, give them the room to create some new ideas, give them the room to express their innovative ideas in order to better what we already have. Don't just train them and keep them in the cycle. Train them and give them the space to have innovative thinking.
Marcia, if I could just add to that as well. I think another factor that we need to be cognizant of is what type of youth is getting these opportunities. So, there's a difference between a youth who comes from the ghettos trying to get their way up in life and a youth who came from, let's say, an affluent household who essentially has the career waiting for them, the managerial position, the CEO position waiting the moment they step out of this place. Like when we take into consideration things such as, nepotism, cronyism, and those things, we need to make it clear that we want youths to get opportunities who may not have as ease or the easy access to these types of things. Because their perspective will most certainly differ from someone who has grown up and was indoctrinated into the life in which the same traditions in which we're speaking against right now. So that's something I think we need to add as well.
You're hitting home for me. Because, and I always be thinking, especially within my community, because I also technically grew up in the ghetto, right? and you would often see these young people on the block and they just smoking weed, and we would just automatically think to ourselves, well, they have no life in front of them. We just often just say disregard them and say, well, them worthless, right? Them have no life. They just throw away their life. But at the same time, you have to remember that they are at a point in their life where they need guidance, where they need mentorship, and then oftentimes they learn from the older people within the community. And this is where I want to ask you all this question. Do you all think that young people, where they see adults doing the wrong thing, do you all think that young people should correct them?
Of course, I've done it before.
You've done it before?
I've done it before.
I mean, I just want to do it to know, but
But it be respectfully. Respectfully.
That's my
Some they just want to just go off. But because they will see it does go off.
So
on
should
them.
you do it in public or in private? And like, for example, if it is something is happening bad in front of your face, should you just say, well, hey, the way you doing this is a bad thing? You
Definitely
just put them to the
Most of
side
the time
and
you
say,
put them aside and communicate because
No,
they
you're
will not
not-
respond.
I think it's dependent on the
Yeah,
situation.
I disagree because you could do it in public without being hard, without coming across as loud
that's
and
how you do it.
disrespectful.
Because they wouldn't respond if you come across like
correct.
all they will say is what the child telling me. That is it. So you have to know exactly what it is.
I mean,
That's
like,
it.
let's say there's an adult and the child did something wrong and they're beating them to a bloody pulp in front of everybody. Like, to a bloody pulp. Now, would it be appropriate for us to now say, well, no, we have to pull this adult aside, or should we just correct them right there and then? Because despite you being an adult, look what you're doing. Like, look what you're doing to this person. Like, you have to, make it clear at that point in time. But I've also had situations in which, right, so let's say when I used to travel, the taxi driver wanted to get rid of a bottle, and we had a river there. He handed me the bottle to throw in the river. I told him, no, well, has I been down there? And he watched me a certain way, but then he said, all right, thanks. And then he went and did it. And there was no issue with that. Of course, some people might not react like that. They're like, know your place. But there's this unfortunate misconception that with age comes with some sense of wisdom or respect as well. No, it's not synonymous.
Superiority.
Yeah, it's not synonymous. You need to earn it, and just because you're 60 years old does not mean you are wise on some form of pinnacle of what it means to be an adult. Especially in Trinidad and Tobago.
Especially in Trinidad.
Especially in Trinidad and Tobago.
So, yeah, and I don't know, I often just feel as though some older persons want to just control young people in terms of what they are doing with their lives. And it might seem as though that they have like the best interests at heart, but how they execute it comes off as terrible. You know?
And that's the problem with the generation gap in us.
Yeah. So speaking of children, right? I don't know, that came out kind of wrong in my head. To me, in my head, it came out better. But what do you all think about child labor?
I disagree with it wholeheartedly. I actually had to do something. So for the bursary application, I wrote on child labor itself. So there's a difference between, let's say, during vacation, a child just spends 2-3 hours with a family member, helping around the shop, get some pay. There's a difference between that and us leaving the UV compound and seeing children who are no older than 12 or 13, and they should be in school, wiping the windows, selling food and fruits and stuff like that.
I have a serious
I have
problem.
a major
And the
problem with
thing
that.
is, we have laws in place, and it is we right in front of the police station, right opposite the police station, and nothing is
Because
being
it is
done.
normalized at this point in time. That it is. And the argument against it is that, well, they're not going to do anything in school, school not going to benefit them,
Exactly.
they have no future, and this can make them money at least. And no, that is a fallacious argument. Because they didn't even present the child with the opportunity to better themselves. No attempt at social mobility. Yet you're condemning the child to this type of life. And when they have a child, they may now adopt the same mindset. And it's just up to faith right now, a higher power, if you believe in that as well, to hope that that child, that generation will now come to the realization that, hey, I was not raised or not given the proper opportunities, that we now work hard to ensure that my child can now seek to do something in this life. So,
Yeah.
And as I wouldn't say yes or no either. It's very much because some of them actually do get the opportunities and then they don't take the opportunities. So then I understand why some adults in society will say, you know what, well then let them go and work. At least they could make money, at least they could, at least do something with their life. Because some they do get the opportunities and they throw it away. And
But that's
Yeah.
a failure of the parent.
Not necessarily. Sometimes the
Sometimes
parents put
it is,
everything
yeah.
in place for the child.
Yeah.
Remember, children have their own mentality. They have.
A child at 12 years old
Yeah.
have their own mental
Didn't
capacity.
didn't we do like that?
God.
No. We
Okay.
we agree, but the psychological thinking, their mental thinking is not fully developed at that
Do we have to
age.
go back to human rights class? I wasn't here in these arguments in human rights class when we was talking about corporal punishment
Listen.
and not beating the children because they have a mind of their own and they can think and they can understand instead of just getting licks.
Right, that is a different situation. Because when we say
they have a mind of their own.
hold up, when we say they
They
have a
can think.
mind of their own and they can think, we are speaking about the parents could sit down and have a conversation with the child instead of going to corporal punishment.
We don't get into corporal punishment. This is
No,
right.
that's a whole
But
other ballgame.
Yeah,
some
that's a-
children, the children now are evolving. Children are more.
What do you mean children are evolving?
With society now, okay. At
Darwin
2
is
years old, a child knows how to operate tablets, you know how to operate this, you know how to do that.
I agree.
Right on your foot.
Mhm.
So listen. So the thing is, I totally understand what you're saying,
Mhm.
but we have to agree that there are some cases where children they know exactly what they want to do in life and stuff. They have the mental capacity to understand, and their parents put everything, they give them everything to make this a better society, and still they just do it because why? I don't want to do it. What do we do then?
So in that instance, I think as a parent, so let's say your child wants to go into some trade, and they say that they don't want to do this school thing anymore. Tell them, well, just get your passes. Like that's the bare minimum. At that point in time, do anything else you want because at least with those passes, you could get another job if things don't work out. I think that's where a parent will need to put their foot down and say, listen, get the basic requirements so that even if things don't work out, you have a second option. You have a plan B.
Correct. And you don't need to do it in a violent or harsh way. You see what Joshua said? You sit down and you're sitting down and explaining to them, listen,
understand.
this
It's
is
all
what
about
will happen
communication.
if you do this. This will be the outcome. This may be the outcome if you go down this path. And we don't have enough of that in our Caribbean society.
Well, let me just add to this too. In terms of how Wesley approaching this situation too, there will be some youths, no doubt about it, in the judicial system as well, who they have a set mindset towards things. And if they say, hey, I'm not going to stay in this class, don't tell me about no job, I'd rather go rob somebody. In that instance, you need intervention. Like, I know the parent might try their best to do whatever they do, but at some point they may just not have the capacity to deal with the child anymore. You need intervention because unfortunately, there are cases where a child, as you would say, they are at a point where they don't want to like hear reasoning or anything, and you need a lot more intervention to actually deal with the situation. So those are the special circumstances that I could understand and which you're trying to bring up right now.
And I think I totally understand what you're saying, but I'm just playing devil's advocate. And it's prevents this bad conversation. And I totally understand what you're saying. It's just the special circumstances. Yeah.
So that should translate as well into advocating for migrant children as well. Because oftentimes I feel as though that when we advocating for young people and youth, that we often leave out migrant children, children with disabilities. Because even this entire conversation with allowing migrant children to be in school for the new opening of the school term, there was hot debate about allowing these children. I'm just so confused about why are people so concerned about allowing Venezuelan children into the education system.
We kind of feed them one as outside.
Exactly. You're
And then-
alienating them one time.
And then two, they may, I'm just guessing that if we allow them to actually be in school and operate in school, we kind of allowing or giving the Venezuelans, okay, the idea in their mind that yes, I could go to Trinidad, I could fill up Trinidad because they give my children all these opportunities, all these things. And I guess so. We have to find a balance. A balance. I guess, yeah.
Yeah. So, wow, you know how to cut this part.
That's okay. I didn't think you expect me to answer that faster. Okay.
It's like to just breathe.
Yeah, just breeze through everything so quick.
Better in your community.
So, yeah. So in terms of, because I'm not sure about you and Amaris on the type of environment that you would have grown up in. But how do you all think that we as young people could help alleviate some of the issues within the community, our own community? Because oftentimes, again, and I'll going back to me because I just feel real irritated by it when I see young people just at the side of the road and they're smoking. No younger than 16 years and they're smoking and they feel as though
Do you mean
that
no
they are
older?
huh?
No older than 16
No
or
older than
younger?
16. What I say?
Younger.
Yeah, yeah,
No
no
older
older than
than-
16 years. And they're just smoking and they feel as though that they have no life for themselves. And oftentimes I just see the community center closed down and they have nothing going on. So how do you all think that we could do something as youth advocates?
Um,
There's a tough question because things are being done. It's just that most young persons do not know about the opportunities.
And
and
What
thing
I
is,
was saying.
I might say for me, I would take it on the more individual perspective and say, well, we have to set example in society, or like we can become a role model to those that are in our communities. So, like in my community, they will have certain boys who would, as I say, right, and they would watch me, Virgin, whatever thing, and see how we actually go in society. And I believe in their minds, they think, I want better like that. I want to, you see, I'm watching how you all are going, and I want to follow in that aspect as well. And you see, many of them actually start going towards that part of
you
becoming.
see, I don't know, I just often feel weird of giving myself the title of being a youth mentor or that those sort of things because
Sometimes it is
I just
happening.
often feel targeted.
No, sometimes
Because
it is
even
happening.
when I was doing like an internship, everybody in my community they watching me and saying, he's a big shot now. And it's like envious, the
Yeah.
jealousy. I feel as though it is jealous and envious what I'm doing, even though I don't want to say I grew up better, but I had like a different environment as compared to them.
That's the thing. I can see the same thing. I had a totally different environment, but I think that was sometimes we could also sit down and talk to them. I mean, I'm sure you might line with them. For me, I would have lined with them once in a while. I think, and even though linemen will talk, they say, "No, hey, get this together, do what," and just that's how you give little impact, and it will eventually cause a greater change.
Yeah.
So let me just say this. So the problem with youths and going rampant in society is a lot deeper than we'd actually think. So at the surface level, we just think is, no mentor. Some might attribute it to no father figure in the house, no positive real male role model. Because there are male role models, it's just not positive ones. So, the former gang leaders, etc. You see, my approach to it is because I've been dealing with it for so long at this point in time, I've set some realistic expectations and goals for myself. So there might maybe a young man, let's say, and I'm using young men because typically they are the ones targeted in terms of hotspot areas, the ghettos, stigmatized as well. Let's say I want to speak to a young man, give him some advice, tell him, hey, X and Y, you can do great things, and I see the potential in you. At that very moment, he may feel inspired, yes. But when I'm not there, when the high is going, what's he going to do? He may just fully well just return to his old ways. So yes, we could try, and we want to try with the youths who we could still have a grasp on.
Right.
But there may be a 20-year-old young man who, very unfortunately, will be stuck in his ways, and this may be the path in which he's set on. And I think the resources in that sense should be directed towards the upcoming generation. They are still malleable, they can still be taught the right thing, they can still be geared into the proper direction. Because what's he sensing, let's say it's 5-6 persons here. It doesn't work, we just keep beating on a dead horse, you keep trying to get to them. And compare that to, let's say, the new generation. We steer that in the proper direction. So let's say those 6 youths who are now inspired, they now go on to inspire another 6 or 7 youths. And that goes on for a generation. And come 15, 20 years, we see a hotspot area, typically stigmatized to be the ghettos, the epitome of failure for a youth. It's now not so bad. We essentially would have changed the approach itself, the entirety of what the area itself would have represented simply by changing the upcoming generation. So I think it's things like that that we need to prioritize. Agreed?
Yeah, I agree. I think that something that could help as well in our community is humility. So what we need is more humble leaders in our community, down to earth leaders in our community who are just, yes, as leaders in the community, you have to respect them. We should respect each other on a whole.
Agreed.
But I think humility has a lot to do with it because many times when I speak to persons, for example, I talk to them regular because I am a regular person. And then when we go into talking about what we actually do, what we study, what we involve in, it is what you like, you know? But that just goes to show that keeping a level of humility while communicating with persons, especially in your community, it goes a long way.
Agreed.
Humility in a whole is a very, very big thing. Like people doesn't know how much passes I have, what I do, and think like is it only after woo, we're gonna
That's my problem too. I just let it tell me my business. It's like it's only if you ask me, I'll tell you and be like, "You involved in some other thing?" I was like, "Yeah." So that kind of segues into another question that I have because you all mentioned stuff like communication, humility, and my question is, what are some of the qualities that you all think a youth advocate or youth mentor should have?
Okay, so most definitely, like there's not just a skill for just a youth mentor and an advocate, but a life skill itself. You have to have charisma. Nobody wants someone who's so rough around the words that they say they can't interact with people in a smooth manner. Like it's just not conducive towards wanting to inspire a proper environment itself. So you can mix the charisma alongside, yes, of course, humility. Nobody wants somebody coming every 5 seconds boasting about how great they are, how accomplished X and Y.
Yeah.
But you could also combine that too with relatability. Like the average person there, they don't want to see somebody and think, wow, that person is so separate and distinct from me. They want to think, wow, that person is almost just like me. Just a few different choices in life would have led them to this path itself.
Right.
And the more somebody could relate to them. So it even boils down to the same argument where people say, I see somebody who looks like me in terms of their skin color, their ethnic features, and I get inspired moving on from that. I think that logic, that concept could apply equally here. You see somebody who had the same approach. We came from the same area. So let's say, for instance, Mova. I came from over, you came from over, but look, I'm doing X and Y. You might think, wow, look, you go speak to your child, your son, your cousin, your brother, your sister. Look what we can do. Look what this area produced. Look at the quality in which we can put forth in this life simply by just taking a few different decisions. And aside from those three things, what else do you guys think actually?
I think, I don't know, courage and bravery goes a long way.
Yeah.
Because that is why I think I am more or less the person that I am today, being outspoken in a respectful way. Goes a long way.
respectful, like you're disrespectful sometimes.
No, because anything, and because you would see issues in society and you would get so emotional and riled up that you want to say something, and you have to say something, But you often have to remember the values of communication or the essence of communication. If it is that you want to communicate a certain message, you have to ensure that the way in which you do it is appropriate. You have to ensure that it's appropriate. So being courageous in the sense and being brave in the sense that you must take into consideration, well, you have to ensure that what you do, you're doing it for the right reasons and for the right purpose.
And in
That is
the
just
right way.
and in the right way. So
correct.
that is what comes to mind immediately when I think about being a youth advocate.
Yeah. For me, I will say being open-minded and willing to learn new things. Because if you are a closed-minded person and you're just stuck in what you know, your traditions, your beliefs, you wouldn't want to know, for example, about the Hindu community, the Chinese community. You wouldn't want to learn about the Venezuelans. You wouldn't want to learn about these things. You wouldn't want to accept society on a whole. So I think being open-minded and willing to learn new things goes a long way. because you never know. Something you might think you know everything, and the truth is, the fact is, none of us knows everything. So just willing to learn. It doesn't matter from whom you're learning that information from. It could be somebody on the block. It could be a leader in your community. But willing to learn and being open-minded, it goes a long way.
And for me, my two would be respect and patience.
Patience.
Because one with
Patience.
respect, as you rightly said, you don't know everything. And especially if you want to be a role model and you want to change people in society, well, not change, but tap into their qualities or whatever, you have to be able to respect them as an individual as well. And patience, you would not effect change as quick as you may think that you can. You would not see a difference. You talk to somebody today, you wouldn't see the difference tomorrow. You have to know to. And next one, perseverance.
And that is my problem, not patience. Because you see, when you want things to happen now, it needs to happen now.
And that's the problem. You have to have that patience and perseverance together, that long suffering as well. To know that, okay, I need to go through these things, I need to do these methods, and then I'll see change. And you may, at some point in time, you may be like, oh, well, why nothing not happen? Why nothing change? You might want to give up. But the time that you want to give up is when the change might actually come, like you see the next day. So it's to just continue pushing, continue trying, and continue putting in those putting in the work, and you'll see the change. Yeah.
I think you also need to be resilient. So, me personally, I've faced a great sense of adversity coming up, growing up, because not only would you have the naysayers, but when you have naysayers from not only people your age, but persons who are older, who you have this expectation to want to encourage you to do X and Y. I know in every approach that you take, you'd have somebody say, no, stop doing this, why are you doing that? Or I wouldn't do this because that don't make sense to me. Or why wasting my time doing this when, I'm young? Like, why am I spending my young years, my youth years, golden years as some might say, spending my time doing all of these things when, I could just go out and, enjoy myself. But my response to it is that, one, who says that I'm not enjoying myself? This to me is fulfilling. I feel a sense of fulfillment doing these types of things. And aside from that too, I personally feel as if adversity and everything else is necessary for you to grow as a person. I wouldn't be who I am without adversity, and I personally feel as if pressure makes you diamond.
That's a
dropping some
good
real stuff here, boy.
one.
Bring me back to the curiosity days.
He didn't mention that he went QLC.
You can't mention it now.
Hey, it's always some
Let
good
me dive
stuff,
on the
boy.
dive.
I mean,
You be talking like, and you went curious.
I went crazy, but what I'm saying is like,
he just got that
it's a cult.
No.
Editor.
You know, as they brought up schools,
Very well.
that is something we had to talk about one time. You
Very
know, throw it
relevant.
in there one time. Too many times, especially in Trinidad and Tobago, probably the Caribbean society in a whole, even abroad on the international stage, society as a whole, we tend to stigmatize certain schools and we tend to boost certain schools. So you will find that all the internship opportunities and all these things are going to the more prestigious schools, right? And then sometimes we're wondering, why this young person not doing this? Why this young person not doing that? Yes, there are the opportunities there for them to sign up and be more engaged and so forth. But in some instances, we have to come to the realization that you must go to the young person and present the opportunity in order for them to take it up. So what do you think about that?
Well, no, you really do bring up a good point. And I must say that I knew persons who attended these quote-unquote prestigious schools and came from the hotspot areas. And what they do is they lie about where they came from. Because the average person there, the type of lifestyle, the affluent approach in which they had in this life, they may have clowned them, they may have made them feel a certain way about it. And I do think that that is a culture in which we should change. But at the same time, I do appreciate my school because it gave me the best of both worlds. And when I say that, I mean, I come from an area which is considered the ghettos. But when I did attend my school CIC, I met a lot of persons who they came from a high class family. So I learned their cultures, their norms, etc. And because of those mixed experiences, I now enter the world with, the both worlds perspective. And because of that, I can do X and Y differently than how somebody might approach a certain situation. It really does help in terms of relatability and sociability as well.
Well,
Stevenson, yeah.
I'm not gonna say I wanna be
Wait,
a-
you wanna say something?
no, because I completely agree with both of you, especially with your point and your point. I agree with both of you. But oftentimes, you all don't know, because I went, I don't want to say a bad secondary school, but it's not a prestigious secondary school. It's more or less in the middle. And oftentimes, you would hear the narrative. Huh?
You could call this
And
be
I'm calling
proud
this
of
school.
your school.
I am proud of my school, and that's what I'm getting to. I am proud of being able to have gone, because without that school, I wouldn't have been where I am today. Right? I was given the opportunity to lead. I was being given the opportunity to be a prefect in that school, and with all of the achievements that I got from that school, is why I was able to get to another school, and why I was able to get to
What
the
school?
university I was.
What next school?
Relax.
So you transferred.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
When he comes
He
to
went-
blue,
I went to schools as well.
he
Right.
came to the Blue Bloods.
So
You see, he just
he
making
can't help
it.
himself. He
Yeah.
can't help himself. So
That's the kind of culture we
No,
have.
no. I will talk when I talk.
and that is why I just think as though sometimes we need to get out of this mindset or this mentality of
Yeah.
prestigious schools are better, because the lesser schools, or whatever you want to deem them as, they can do just as good. Oftentimes, I want to give you an example too, because oftentimes, Mokrapo West, a lot of people would say that the students from that school, they are no good, they're terrible, they always in a fight, etc. And you always see it on social media as well. But what is so funny between Mokrapo and the first school I attended is that Mokrapo actually had like a student council. If I didn't know how much years I was fighting to get a student council in that school, and they had like they had like artwork all over the walls in the school and all those sort of things. So sometimes it is better to look at your own biases and say to yourself,
Why am I rush, bro?
Why am I?
no, because you need to look at your own, because
Yeah,
this is a bias
yeah.
that we have in our minds, that these schools are worse than prestigious schools.
Well,
And that could in turn discourage young people from seeking out better opportunities and better in society.
I would say it's not to say that this school is to not remove the school better, because I mean, the prestigious school you do get way more opportunities.
Why do we get way more opportunities?
No, not why. Okay, for my school, let's speak for chemistry, right? History has shown, right? From history, they would have put things in place that would have allowed opportunities to continue. When you look at Kerosene and how they set up themselves, if you look at every major organization in society, I bet you $100 you would find a Kerosene person.
Why he sat in the
Right?
table.
No,
I
okay.
was sucking up the table.
It's because they have made themselves available. They have put things in place. We can say these secondary schools, they don't get the opportunities, but so they didn't put anything in place.
Let me give you an example.
That is why I'm asking the right question.
Let me give you an example. And I feel as though that it was a real, I don't know, I felt slighted about it, right? Because there's something called the National Secondary School Entrepreneurship Competition, right?
Yeah.
So at that point in time, it was like around Form 4, Form 5. So the competition was in existence for about 2 years, right? But our school never participated in it at all. And I just was on Instagram one day scrolling through, and I see NSEC come up, and I say to myself, but wait, this is a real good opportunity for students.
And it wasn't
even presented to
Exactly,
our
you see?
students. And I say to myself, so I go on to the principal and whatever, I told them about the competition, and they were like, let's sign up for it. But here's my question, right? In my mind, this is a competition thing for secondary school students.
Why they don't know?
All they're trying to tell me that all their teachers don't talk to each other, and you all can't involve a school in
they
this
don't
Let me
know.
answer that.
competition. And how you don't know about it?
Most of these that we say prestigious schools that we say, oh God, they feel it better than. They don't wait for the government to do things for them.
Stuff
You
not
know what they
on the
do?
table.
They organize they organize things, and us students, we pay money to do things. When you go to Paris, you have
Love
set
that
to
you're
pay.
saying that.
You have things to pay. When you go to your secondary schools, they're not asking you to
Love
pay
that
one set
you're
of money. You know
saying
why?
that.
They're waiting for the government. These prestigious
What
schools,
you
they don't pay it. And I'm not
What
bashing.
do you mean
No,
by waiting for the
I'm
government?
I'm
Wesley,
not bashing.
Wesley, you need to take into account
Mhm.
that persons who are that not everybody in our country have the resources and the finances to pump into education. Hence the reason why our government lends so much assistance.
Right.
And I am a product of that as well.
And I understand that, but what I'm telling you from the past and history, these schools have always done this. So I mean, secondary school they might now try
And
to do
it's
it, but
because
how effective would it be? These prestigious schools have been doing this from since when? So it's not that they don't say, okay, government, I need this, I need that. They're not waiting. They're telling you. It may be wrong, but they're telling you, come on, pay. Send
They
your
have
money.
been
Why?
doing
Because
it
we need
since
this and
when?
we need this. And if you want your child to do good, and listen, the parents that send their children to this school, they will dare not say, no, I'm not paying, I'm not doing this anyway because I will better for my child. So
And
I
that
will
is
pay
why
money.
we as young people need to have this voice so that we can speak out on these issues.
And I think thing we should change is saying that the students in the school are better than one another. That is what you should. Not the school better,
Right,
no,
so-
but the students, because there are many. I know I have many friends that went normal secondary schools, and
yeah, I know you're saying that, but
Right.
when you hear certain school names, you're associated with certain types of individuals. And
Yeah.
I was like that at one point in time too. Like when I did the SCA exam, I cried because I didn't pass for the so-called prestigious
and that's
school.
because
right?
of the stigma.
And
Yeah.
now I went St. Charles and then I went Arima North, right? And that just goes to show it comes down to a great extent to the young person's mindset and wanting better for
And that's
themselves.
why-
Let me just add to that as well. So, we're talking about the prestigious schools and what they have and stuff. And I hear different arguments, nuanced points as well. But one thing I must mention is the alumni's play in this.
Exactly.
So, in terms of, like, let's say CIC, they renovated the labs for over $1 million because they're alumni.
I know, let's see, but every time he says CIC, he's like, ah. Why
Because
he come crazy?
the alumni because the alumni network is so interconnected. Like
Yeah.
one of the strengths that
That's
even that my family told me was that CIC is whoever by see either the ring or once they hear go CIC immediately persons in those higher positions they get a sort of affinity towards you. So the networking opportunities, how the alumni come back, they often sponsor things and through events solely of the alumni
It creates
payment.
an automatic bias.
It creates a,
Yeah.
a,
They will choose
it's a
you because
culture.
you went to their school.
And I would say they kind
And
of
so-
work pretty biased in a sense. Right?
That's true.
Yeah, and
But that's why we
That's
as
right,
young
too,
people,
but we
create
shouldn't
that
have the
culture.
bias, but they work pretty
that's
biased.
understand,
They
and that's
create
why
that
we
culture.
as young people need to strive towards better and work together
Because, like,
to get to a
if you
point
watch,
of greatness.
Mm.
So with that,
You can say that about
I
other
think
secondary
it's
schools.
So y'all, this comes to the conclusion of our youth episode.
We will
wanna
bring it back, you know.
I will cut
because
that
Wesley
ending. Okay,
continue
that's
to
it. I
have
will
a
cut that
bias.
ending. So continue.
We want to thank Joshua
Joshua
Williams
Joshua.
for being on our show today. Thank you so very much.
It was a
We hope
pleasure.
to see you in the future. And remember to like, share, and subscribe on our channel because if you don't, we might very well have to do some illegal stuff.
Okay, wait, but
No!
wait,
What
but
no,
Joshua,
Thank you so very much.
Wait,
And goodbye.
But Joshua, how you felt to be in this episode?
That was a great episode. You see, the thing about it was that I got to see Phyllis how the dynamic is. And
Yeah.
even though it's all chaos,
Very chaotic.
it's controlled
Very
chaos.
chaotic.
And that's what I can appreciate about it. So again, I commend you guys for this type of initiative. Really is
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And that's the end of the video.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.